The greatest threats to your freedom are not the enemies you see, not the critics who mock, not even the betrayals that cut from the outside. The greatest threats live within you, silent and constant, disguised as truths. These are the lies you tell yourself, soothing, comfortable, poisonous lies that chain the soul more tightly than any tyrant could. For what tyrant could enslave you if your mind remained free? And what empire could protect you if your mind became your prison? The Stoics knew this well. They walked through a world of chaos, slavery, war, exile, assassination, and yet they understood that the most dangerous illusions were not the ones shouted by politicians or whispered by conspirators. They were the illusions a man whispered to himself in the dark, excuses he believed, stories he repeated, comforts he clung to. For a sword can wound the body, but a lie believed corrodes the soul. Think of Epictetus. Born a slave, beaten by his master, crippled for life, he knew that freedom did not depend on chains but on thought. If he had told himself, "I am powerless, I cannot endure, my life is over," he would have died long before his body fell. But he refused those lies. He told himself instead the harder truth: "I cannot control my body, but I control my mind. I will is free." And in that truth, he became greater than his master. Or think of Marcus Aurelius, seated on the throne of the Roman Empire. Surrounded by flattery, intrigue, temptation, he could have believed the lie that he was a god among men, untouchable, eternal. Many emperors before him believed this, and they descended into madness and cruelty. But Marcus wrote in his journals the harder truth: "You are a man, mortal, destined for dust. Do not be proud. Do not waste what remains." He refused the lie, and in that refusal, he preserved his humanity. This is the danger of self-deception. It is easy, it is sweet, and it is deadly. The man who tells himself he has endless time wastes his days until none remain. The woman who tells herself she needs others' approval chains her happiness to strangers' moods. The one who tells himself pleasure is happiness spends his life chasing appetites, never satisfied, always enslaved. And each of these thinks he is living freely, when in truth he is living bound. The Stoics would not allow such lies to go unchallenged. Their philosophy was a blade meant to cut through illusion, a torch meant to burn away the fog. They believed that truth, however harsh, was the only soil in which virtue could grow. "Do not hope that events will conform to your will," Epictetus said. "Wish instead that your will conform to events, and you will find peace." This is the exact opposite of the lies we tell ourselves: that the world will bend to us, that others will obey our desires, that life will deliver comfort if we demand it loudly enough. But notice this: the Stoics did not simply condemn lies, they taught us to replace them. For a man cannot live in a void. Tear down one illusion and another will rush in to fill the space unless you plant truth there. To stop telling yourself you are powerless, you must tell yourself, "I always have power over my judgments." To stop telling yourself that pleasure equals happiness, you must tell yourself, "Happiness is the fruit of virtue, not indulgence." To stop telling yourself you have endless time, you must tell yourself, "I may die today, let me live rightly now." These truths are harder to bear, but they are also harder to break. Imagine how different your life could be if you stripped away the lies. Imagine waking each morning, not with the illusion of endless time, but with the clarity of mortality. Would you still waste hours in trivialities, or would you speak what must be spoken, act where action is needed, forgive while you can? Imagine walking into a room not needing the approval of others, not bending your dignity for applause. Would you not stand taller, freer, calmer? Imagine seeking not constant pleasure, but steady discipline. Would you not discover a happiness that endures even in hardship? These lies, then, are not small. They are the architects of our suffering. And the first step in destroying them is recognition. For as long as you tell yourself, "This is just who I am," you are bound. As long as you tell yourself, "I will start tomorrow," you are bound. As long as you tell yourself, I must be loved to have worth, you are bound. The chains are invisible, but they are chains nonetheless. The Stoics would say, begin by suspecting yourself. Not with hatred, but with vigilance. Each time you hear a comforting thought, test it. Ask, is this truth or is this flattery? Each time you make an excuse, examine it. Ask, am I escaping reality or facing it? Each time you cling to comfort, probe it. Ask, does this make me stronger or weaker? In this way, you become your own guardian. You expose the lies before they can root themselves, and you plant truth in their place. This is why philosophy is not an ornament, but armor. It is not something to admire, but something to wear. When Seneca wrote of the shortness of life, he was not writing for libraries, but for the trembling soul that thinks it has time. When Marcus wrote of death, he was not composing literature, but warning himself against the poison of pride. When Epictetus taught that no man can control another's will, he was not amusing students, but saving them from despair. Each Stoic voice is an antidote to lies, if we dare to swallow it. And so the journey begins here, with the courage to admit the most dangerous deceiver in your life is you. You are the one who whispers, tomorrow, while time vanishes. You are the one who insists, I cannot change, while every day you make choices that shape you. You are the one who says, if they love me, I will be whole, while neglecting the inner fortress that no one else can build. To discover the lies you tell yourself is to discover the chains you willingly wear, and to expose them is to hold the key to your own freedom. The Stoics would not promise that this is easy. They would promise only that it is necessary. For no man can live freely in a cage of illusion, and no woman can live peacefully while feeding on lies. Truth is heavy, but lies are heavier still. Better to carry the sharp weight of reality than the suffocating weight of deception. Better to live awake in truth than to dream comfortably in illusion. And so we begin. Let us lay bare the dangerous lies that lurk within. The lie that we are powerless. The lie that pleasure is happiness. The lie that time is infinite. The lie that validation defines us. The lie that we cannot change. And the lie that we can control everything. These are the poisons we drink daily. And these are the poisons the Stoics demand we spit out, no matter how sweet they taste. For only in truth will we find the freedom we seek. One of the most seductive lies you tell yourself is this: I have no control. I am a victim of circumstance. It is a lie that whispers with great comfort, for it relieves you of responsibility. If fate is to blame, if others are to blame, if the universe itself is to blame, then you are innocent, untouched, free of duty. Yet beneath this comfort lies poison. For when you believe you have no control, you surrender the very thing the Stoics taught was always yours: your will, your judgment, your choices. Epictetus repeated this truth so often that his students grew weary of it. Some things are up to us, and some are not. This simple division is the cornerstone of Stoicism, and yet it is the very truth most men run from. For if you accept it, you must face the weight of freedom. You cannot pretend that your misery is entirely caused by others. You cannot pretend that your rage is inevitable. You cannot pretend that your despair is written by fate. You must admit, this part is mine. My response is mine. My judgment is mine. And that admission is heavy, for it leaves no one else to blame. Why do we love the lie of helplessness? Because it shields us from shame. If I believe I cannot help myself, then my failures are not mine. If I tell myself I am only a product of my childhood, my culture, my boss, my enemies, then I am safe from responsibility. But this safety is an illusion. It does not protect, it paralyzes. It leaves you lying still while life moves on without you. And the more you repeat this lie, the smaller your world becomes, until you are nothing but a shadow of what you could have been. The Stoics would not let us rest in such cowardice. They dragged the lie into the light. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was not writing poetry, he was commanding himself in the midst of crisis. Rome was at war, plague spread, conspiracies swirled, yet he reminded himself daily that none of it could truly break him. Only his own surrender could do that. Seneca, too, rebuked this lie. In his essay on anger, he insisted that rage is not a storm that sweeps us away, but a fire we feed. If you tell yourself, "I could not help it, I exploded," you deceive yourself. The truth is that you chose to fuel the spark, to justify the blaze. Self-control was always possible. You simply loved the illusion of being swept away, for it excused your weakness. Modern life offers countless variations of this lie. You tell yourself, "You cannot change your habits because that's just who I am." You tell yourself, "You cannot resist temptation because my cravings are too strong." You tell yourself you cannot forgive because they hurt me too badly. But beneath each excuse lies the same falsehood that you are powerless. And as long as you believe it, you will live like a slave. The Stoic answer is not cruel, but it is uncompromising. You may not control fortune, but you control yourself. You may not control how others act, but you control your response. You may not control death, disease, betrayal, or loss, but you control whether they make you bitter or better. This is the one freedom no tyrant, no catastrophe, no betrayal can take from you, unless you surrender it willingly. To reject this lie, you must begin with small acts. Do not wait for the great crisis to test your freedom. Test it in daily life. When insulted, resist the urge to lash back. When tempted, pause before obeying. When despair whispers, remind yourself that judgment creates suffering, not the event itself. Each small act proves the lie false. Each choice is evidence that you are not powerless. And as evidence grows, the lie withers. Imagine a man beaten, imprisoned, chained. By all appearances, he has no control. Yet if he chooses his thoughts, if he guards his will, if he refuses to hate or despair, then he remains free. This was Epictetus, who turned the shackles of slavery into the school of freedom. Now imagine a modern man, wealthy, comfortable, surrounded by luxury. Yet he believes every inconvenience destroys him, every insult wounds him, every rejection defines him. Though free in body, he is enslaved in mind. Which man is truly free? The Stoics leave no doubt. Freedom is not external, but internal. And so you must confront this first lie whenever it rises. I have no control. Expose it with the harder truth. I always control my judgments, my choices, my will. This is not easy. It is the hardest task of life. But it is also the only path to freedom. For as long as you tell yourself you are powerless, you will remain so. But the moment you claim responsibility, even for the smallest act, you reclaim your throne. You remember that while fate governs the stage, you still command your role upon it. The Stoics demand this honesty. They knew that no man becomes wise by accident, and no woman becomes strong by excuse. To live in the lie of helplessness is to live as a ghost, carried by winds you could resist. To live in the truth of your own power is to live as a sovereign, unshaken by storms. And when you finally choose to believe it, not the lie of helplessness, but the truth of freedom, you discover what Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." One of the most dangerous lies whispered to the human soul is this: if I have enough pleasure, comfort, and wealth, I will be happy. It is a lie so common, so deeply woven into our societies, that few ever question it. From childhood, we are trained to pursue it: toys, rewards, indulgences. As adults, the toys grow larger, the rewards more expensive, the indulgences more sophisticated, but the lie remains the same. And because it is so sweet, so glittering, so constantly repeated, Most men die having never seen through it. The Stoics, however, tore off this mask without mercy. They declared that pleasure is not happiness, that comfort is not peace, that wealth is not freedom. Seneca, who swam in riches as a senator of Rome, warned repeatedly that money never quiets the restless heart. It is not the man who has too little, he wrote, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Epictetus, a crippled slave with nothing, proclaimed that true happiness belongs only to the virtuous. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the richest empire on earth, reminded himself daily that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. From slave to emperor, they all agreed pleasure and comfort are unstable masters. Why is this lie so seductive? Because pleasure is immediate. Food tastes sweet, the bed feels soft, the crowd's applause warms the ego. Comfort lulls us, convinces us that we are safe, that we have succeeded. But it is temporary, fragile, easily stolen. The food digests and leaves you empty again. The soft bed can turn to sickness or restlessness. The applause fades, replaced by silence or ridicule. The heart that depends on these will forever tremble, for its happiness is chained to what cannot last. Consider the addict who tells himself that one more drink, one more pill, one more indulgence will bring relief. Each time, he feels it for a moment, but the emptiness soon returns, deeper than before. Or the consumer who believes that one more purchase, one more upgrade, one more luxury will finally bring contentment. He buys, he enjoys, and then he hungers again. This is not freedom, it is slavery disguised as satisfaction. The Stoics knew that happiness rooted in pleasure is like building a house on sand. The first storm wipes it away. Happiness rooted in virtue, however, stands like a fortress. Virtue, discipline, courage, justice, wisdom depends on nothing outside yourself. It cannot be stolen, cannot be bought, cannot be taken by fortune. The man who delights in his own integrity does not collapse when luxury is stripped away. But the man who delights only in comfort collapses the moment fortune changes. Seneca illustrated this when he practiced voluntary poverty. Though wealthy, he would eat simple meals, sleep on hard beds, wear rough clothing. Sometimes it is leaving a message unanswered when it drips with manipulation. To remind himself that happiness did not depend on luxury. He trained his soul to endure less, so that when fortune withdrew her gifts, he would not panic. Epictetus trained his students the same way. Practice hardship so you are not enslaved by comfort. For what kind of happiness collapses at the loss of a pillow? What kind of freedom depends on a feast? Modern life makes this lie even more dangerous. Never before has pleasure been so abundant, so immediate, so constant. Food delivered to your door, entertainment streaming in endless waves, comforts available at the tap of a screen. And yet, paradoxically, depression, anxiety, and despair rise. And here lies the resistance. Toxic people despise boundaries because boundaries expose their weakness. Because the lie is being exposed. Pleasure multiplies, but happiness does not. Comfort grows, but peace shrinks. We are proof that indulgence cannot cure the emptiness of the soul. The Stoic does not despise pleasure. He simply refuses to be ruled by it. He enjoys what is present, but does not cling to it. He eats with gratitude, but does not weep when the feast ends. He rests when the bed is soft, but he can sleep on the ground without despair. He listens to applause without arrogance and to silence without fear. His happiness is not built on the fragile ground of pleasure, but on the unshakable rock of virtue. To dismantle this lie, you must practice the opposite of what the world teaches. When comfort whispers that it is essential, step into discomfort deliberately. Skip a meal, take a cold shower, walk instead of riding. Each act reminds you that pleasure is optional, not necessary. When wealth whispers that it will complete you, practice generosity. Give away what you treasure and see that you remain whole. When applause whispers that you are valuable only if praised, practice silence. Refuse to depend on their voices for your worth. Each practice proves the lie false and plants truth in its place. Imagine the strength of such a life. Imagine a man who delights in virtue above pleasure. Offer him a feast, and he accepts with gratitude. Take the feast away, and he continues calmly. Praise him, and he remains steady. Mock him, and he remains steady. Give him wealth, and he uses it with moderation. Strip it away, and he remains the same. This is freedom, the happiness no storm can erase. The lie that pleasure equals happiness has enslaved countless souls. But the Stoics remind us, what is sweet is not always good. What is comfortable is not always safe. What is praised is not always worthy. True happiness is not in what touches the tongue or pleases the eye, but in what strengthens the soul. And only those who dare to reject this lie will ever taste it. Perhaps no lie is more common, more quietly destructive than this one: I have plenty of time. It slips into the mind without resistance. It comforts the lazy, excuses the procrastinator, soothes the guilty. Tomorrow I will begin. Tomorrow I will forgive. Tomorrow I will change. Tomorrow I will live as I should. But tomorrow is the greatest illusion mankind has ever believed in. For tomorrow is never promised, and every day wasted in the hope of tomorrow is a day stolen from your life. The Stoics fought this lie with urgency. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, wrote with biting clarity, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He rebuked those who complained about the brevity of life while squandering it in trivial pursuits. "Life is long," he said, "if you know how to use it." Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, reminded himself each morning, "You may leave this life at any moment. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Epictetus warned his students never to postpone virtue, for death could come as swiftly as the turning of a page. Why do we cling so tightly to the lie of infinite time? Because it shields us from reality. To admit that life is brief is terrifying. It forces us to face our mortality, to reckon with unfinished tasks, unspoken words, unlit days. It confronts us with the uncomfortable truth that we have wasted more than we care to admit. So instead, we wrap ourselves in the comfort of illusion. Not today, we say. There will be time later. But later is a thief dressed as a promise. Look at how this lie plays out. A man delays reconciling with his brother, telling himself there will be time after the busy season, after the next holiday, after things calm down. But one day, the call comes, the brother is gone. The words remain forever unsaid. Or a woman delays pursuing what she loves, telling herself she will try when the children are grown, when money is stable, when she feels ready. But years pass, strength fades, and her dreams lie buried with her youth. Or consider the ordinary man who delays self-discipline, diet, exercise, study, believing he can always start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes weeks, weeks become years, and one day he wakes to find himself aged, weak, regretful, wondering where the time has gone. The Stoics knew that death was not an enemy to be hidden, but a teacher to be welcomed. Memento mori, remember you must die, was not a call to despair, but a call to urgency. Each morning, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of death, not to sadden his heart, but to sharpen it. Each time Seneca rehearsed mortality, he did not sink into nihilism, but rose into clarity. Epictetus told his students to kiss their loved ones with the awareness that they were mortal, not to darken affection, but to make it more vivid. Death gave meaning to life because it stripped away the illusion of infinite time. When you believe the lie of endless days, you waste them. You waste them on arguments that do not matter, on possessions that will soon belong to another, on anxieties about a future you may never see. But when you live with the truth of mortality, you become ruthless with time. You refuse to squander hours on gossip, on bitterness, on distraction. You speak words of love while there is time. You act with courage while breath remains. You choose virtue over delay. Death, properly remembered, is not the enemy of life. It is the fuel of living. Modern life only deepens this lie. Surrounded by medicine, technology, and distraction, we believe we can postpone endlessly. We scroll through hours as if they are infinite, binge through days as if they can be refilled. But no technology has ever defeated death. No distraction has ever bought a single extra hour. The calendar still consumes us, silently, steadily, lone day at a time. The question is not whether the days will pass, but whether you will live them awake or asleep in illusion. The Stoic discipline against this lie is to bring death close. Do not hide it. Do not ignore it. Remind yourself often, I may not see tomorrow. Say it not in despair, but in gratitude. Let it strip away hesitation. Let it burn away procrastination. Let it drive you to live this day as if it were the last, not in indulgence, but in virtue. To speak honestly, to love freely, to act justly, to stand courageously, that is how a Stoic spends his fleeting time. Imagine the strength of such a life. Imagine if every choice were sharpened by the knowledge that time is short. How many words of kindness would be spoken? How many resentments dissolved? How many noble actions finally taken? How many trivial distractions abandoned? This is the revolution of rejecting the lie of infinite time. It is the transformation of living not tomorrow, not someday, but now. And so the Stoics confront us. Stop lying to yourself. Stop saying you have time. You do not know if you have years, months, or even hours. But you have this moment. Spend it in truth, in virtue, in clarity. Do not wait. For the man who waits for tomorrow dies today, and the man who lives today will never fear tomorrow. Now some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day" so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Another lie that poisons countless lives is this: I need the approval of others to have worth. It begins early, often in childhood, when praise feels like oxygen and disapproval feels like suffocation. A child learns that applause brings acceptance, and so he grows into an adult who still bends his soul for the clapping of hands. The woman who shines only when others notice, the man who works only for recognition, the youth who lives only for likes, all are chained to the same illusion. That value comes from outside. The Stoics shattered this lie with relentless clarity. Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because if you measure your worth by others' opinions, you will never be free. Their moods will be your chains, their praise your drug, their scorn your torment. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, ambition means tying your well-being to what others say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. Seneca, surrounded by the corruption of Roman politics, told Lucilius, you live as if you were destined to live forever, as if the applause of men could prolong your years. Live rightly, not widely. Why do we love the lie of external validation? Because it feels sweet in the moment. The crowd's applause lights up the heart. The compliment soothes the insecurity. The promotion, the award, the public recognition, all give the illusion of permanence. But like pleasure, they are fragile, fleeting, out of your control. One day, the crowd cheers. The next day, it turns against you. One day, you are praised, the next, forgotten. If your worth depends on these, your worth vanishes with them. Look around at the patterns of modern life. Social media has magnified this lie to monstrous proportions. Millions live not for their own integrity, but for the approval of strangers they will never meet. They measure their day not by virtue, but by numbers, followers, likes, shares. And when the numbers dip, so does their sense of value. It is slavery disguised as freedom, addiction dressed as connection. The Stoic answer is harder but liberating. Your worth lies in virtue, not validation. Did you act justly today? Did you speak truthfully? Did you govern your desires, master your temper, resist corruption? Then you are valuable, whether or not a single person clapped. And if you acted without virtue, no amount of applause can erase the rot within. As Epictetus said, you are not what others think of you. You are your choices. Consider the strength of such a life. Imagine a man who speaks truth, even when the room falls silent in disapproval. Imagine a woman who acts with justice, even when no one notices or rewards her. Imagine a leader who governs himself, even when the crowd calls him foolish. These people are free. They are not enslaved to the tides of approval, but anchored in their own virtue. And because of this, paradoxically, their presence commands respect more lasting than applause ever could. The lie of external validation also weakens relationships. When you seek worth in others' opinions, you cannot love freely. You need them to approve of you, and so you perform, manipulate, hide your true self. You become an actor, not a companion. But when your worth is secure within, you can love without chains. You need nothing from others but the chance to act justly toward them. This is true freedom in love and friendship, not to demand applause, but to give virtue. To break this lie, you must practice indifference to opinion. When praised, remind yourself, this does not make me better. When criticized, remind yourself, this does not make me worse. When ignored, remind yourself, my worth has not diminished. Train yourself to care more for the judgment of your conscience than for the judgment of others. For your conscience is the only audience that never leaves, and its applause or its condemnation will follow you even into silence. The Stoics called this living according to nature, to live not for the shifting voices of men, but for the steady guidance of reason. If you live this way, toxic people who thrive on control through praise or scorn will find you unbearable. They cannot manipulate one who does not crave their approval. They cannot wound one who does not fear their disapproval. They cannot own one who knows his worth apart from them. So reject this lie whenever it whispers, they must approve or you are nothing. Replace it with the harder truth, I am my choices. I am my virtue. This truth is heavier to carry, for it leaves you no excuse. But it is also indestructible. And once you carry it, you will never again tremble before the crowd, for your worth will no longer be theirs to give or take. Another lie that keeps countless souls in chains is this: this is just who I am. I cannot change. It sounds humble at times, even honest, but it is among the most paralyzing illusions you can accept. To tell yourself you are unchangeable is to deny the very essence of being human, the power to grow, to adapt, to improve. It is to confuse habit with destiny, weakness with identity, failure with fate. And once you accept this lie, you stop striving, you stop training, you stop becoming. You sink into stagnation, convincing yourself that the prison is natural. The Stoics refused such fatalism. Epictetus rebuked his students whenever they complain about their nature. Do not say, I am angry by nature, he warned. Are you not also rational by nature? Then train your reason to govern your anger. Marcus Aurelius, emperor yet philosopher, reminded himself, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In other words, what you repeatedly think and do becomes who you are. But this is not fate, it is training. Seneca observed that habits are chains, forged one link at a time, but like chains, they can also be broken. Why is the lie of a fixed identity so tempting? Because it excuses weakness. The man who explodes in anger tells himself, that's just who I am. The woman who cannot break a habit says, "It's in my nature." The youth who fears challenge whispers, "I wasn't born brave." Each repeats the same deception, that growth is impossible, that change is beyond them. But this is not humility. It is cowardice disguised as honesty. The Stoics saw change as a duty. They believed the mind is clay, constantly shaped by our choices. Epictetus compared life to training in a gymnasium. You grow by wrestling with difficulty, by resisting, by sweating, by enduring. To say you cannot change is like a man standing at the edge of a training ground declaring he will never grow strong because he has not yet lifted a weight. Of course you are weak now, but what else could you be if you have not trained? Weakness is not destiny, it is the beginning point of discipline. Consider how habits reveal this truth. A man who smokes for decades may tell himself, "I will always be this way." Yet countless have quit. A coward on the battlefield may tremble, but with practice he may become courageous through repeated exposure. The glutton may learn moderation, the liar may learn truth, the selfish may learn generosity. Change does not come all at once, nor without pain. But every choice bends the arc of character, like countless drops carving stone. The modern world reinforces the lie of a fixed self. We are told constantly, "Be yourself. Accept yourself. This is who you are." On one level, this can be healthy, rejecting the toxic chase for others' approval. But it becomes poison when it means surrender to vice. To be yourself is not an excuse to remain petty, lazy, or undisciplined. The Stoic would say, do not be yourself, be your best self. And your best self is not static. It is forged every day through the furnace of effort. Marcus Aurelius warned himself never to delay improvement. You are not meant to live as brutes, but as men who pursue virtue. He wrote this, not as advice to others, but as a rebuke to himself, because even as emperor, he feared slipping into complacency. He knew that power, comfort, and habit all whisper the same lie. This is who you are, do not change. But he also knew that the soul that stops striving is already half dead. To dismantle this lie, you must treat life as practice. Every day is a training ground. If you are prone to anger, each insult is a chance to practice patience. If you are prone to fear, each challenge is a chance to practice courage. If you are prone to greed, each temptation is a chance to practice moderation. Growth is not abstract. It is the sum of these daily exercises. Each victory, however small, proves the lie false. Each failure, if learned from, becomes fuel for the next attempt. Imagine the freedom of rejecting this lie. You no longer say, "This is just me." Instead, you say, "This is me today, but I am shaping tomorrow." You no longer excuse your faults. You face them as duties. You no longer collapse under weakness. You train it into strength. You no longer accept the prison of habit. You chip away at its walls daily. Slowly, steadily, you become someone new. And though the change is gradual, the result is profound. The Stoics remind us, the only self that cannot change is the self that has given up trying. As long as breath remains, the clay of character is still wet, still shapeable. To tell yourself otherwise is to believe a lie that shrinks your soul, but to embrace the truth that you can grow, that you can train, that you can become. This is to live as a human, not as a shadow. So reject the lie of the fixed self. Replace it with the harder truth. I can change, but only if I choose discipline daily. This is not comforting, for it demands effort. But it is liberating, for it restores hope. And the man or woman who lives this way will never be trapped by yesterday, for each day will be a chance to begin again. Few lies exhaust the soul more than this one. If I try harder, plan more, push longer, I can control everything. It begins innocently, with a desire to shape life according to our will. But it soon grows into obsession, anxiety, despair. For the more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more powerless you feel. The Stoics recognized this as one of the deepest sources of human misery, the refusal to accept limits, the refusal to admit that much of life lies forever beyond our grasp. Epictetus drew a line so sharp his students could never mistake it. Some things are up to us and some are not. Your judgments, your choices, your will, these are yours. Health, wealth, reputation, fortune, even life itself, these are not. To confuse the two is to live in torment. To try to master what belongs to fortune is to fight against the universe itself. And no man has ever won such a battle. Why do we cling to this lie? Because it flatters our pride. It tells us we are gods, architects of reality, sovereigns of fate. It feeds the illusion of control, which is comforting in a chaotic world. We plan every detail, imagining we can prevent suffering. We rehearse every scenario, believing we can avoid loss. We grasp at relationships, convinced we can force them to remain. But when illness strikes, when death comes, when betrayal wounds, the illusion shatters. And because we never prepare for limits, we collapse. Marcus Aurelius, sitting as Emperor of Rome, faced constant reminders of this truth. Armies rebelled, plagues spread, friends died, enemies plotted. He could command legions, but not fate. And so he wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Notice, not comfort, not perfection, not escape strength. The peace he found was not in mastering the empire, but in mastering himself. Seneca put it more sharply, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." He did not mean despair, but acceptance. To demand that the world bend perfectly to your plans is to demand that the ocean stop its tides. The wise do not weep at the ocean, they sail it. They do not demand the storm end, they adjust the sail. They do not curse the rock, they steer around it. This is the art of living, not to control all, but to control yourself within all. Modern life magnifies this lie with its obsession over optimization. Every app, every tool, every course promises control over health, over success, over love, over time itself. But no matter how carefully you plan, life resists. The unexpected arrives. The system fails. Something breaks. The fragile ego, convinced it should be master of all, crumbles in rage or despair. Anxiety thrives here, feeding on the endless gap between expectation and reality. The Stoic alternative is freedom through surrender. Not surrender of effort, but surrender of illusion. You still act, but without clinging to outcomes. You still plan, but without demanding perfection. You still love, but without insisting that love never ends. You do your duty fully, but you release results to fate. Epictetus compared life to sailing a ship. You can steer the rudder, adjust the sail, but the wind is not yours. To curse the wind is madness. To master the sail is wisdom. Imagine the relief of living this way. You no longer waste energy raging at what you cannot command. You no longer measure success by outcomes, but by effort aligned with virtue. You no longer despair when plans collapse, for you never believed they were guaranteed. You walk calmly through storms because you never thought you controlled the sky. This is not passivity, it is power of the highest kind, the power to remain unbroken when everything else breaks. To dismantle this lie, practice releasing control in small ways. When plans are disrupted, remind yourself, this is outside me, but my response is mine. When someone disappoints you, remind yourself, their actions are theirs, my virtue is mine. When health falters or fortune shifts, remind yourself, I did not make this body eternal, but I can govern my soul while I have it. Each act of release strengthens your freedom. Each surrender of illusion plants deeper peace. The truth is not easy, but it is liberating. You cannot control the world, but you can always control yourself. And that is enough. The man who insists on controlling everything becomes a slave to fortune. trembling at every change. The man who accepts limits becomes free, for nothing can take away the mastery he holds over his own will. So, reject this lie whenever it tempts you. Do not tell yourself, if I just try harder, I can bend reality to my desires. Replace it with the harder truth. Reality belongs to fate. My will belongs to me. And in that separation lies your freedom, your serenity, and your strength. And so we arrive at the final and perhaps most sobering realization. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not the tyrant, not the crowd, not even misfortune. It is the soft voice inside you that whispers lies. Lies that feel like comfort but rot into chains. Lies that tell you to wait, to cling, to indulge, to despair. Lies that promise safety while secretly draining your freedom. The Stoics knew that if you do not confront these inner deceivers, no outer victory will matter. For what use is conquering the world if you are conquered by illusion? Let us remember them clearly. The lie that you have no control, when in truth your judgments are always yours. The lie that pleasure and comfort bring happiness, when in truth they enslave unless ruled by virtue. The lie that time is infinite, when in truth every breath may be your last. The lie that others' validation defines you, when in truth your worth lies in your character. The lie that you are fixed, unchangeable, when in truth you are clay shaped by daily choice. The lie that you can control all things, when in truth only your will belongs to you. Each of these, if left unchallenged, corrodes the soul. Each of these, if believed, leaves you weaker, more anxious, more enslaved. But when torn away, when replaced with truth, they transform you into something untouchable. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised clarity. They promised that if you faced truth without flinching, you would discover a freedom no chains could break. Epictetus, born in bondage, rose above his master by mastering himself. Seneca, surrounded by wealth and politics, found serenity by detaching from illusions. Marcus Aurelius, burdened with empire, carried peace within because he refused to believe the lies whispered by pride, fear, and despair. Each lived in chaos, but each lived free because each chose truth over illusion. Modern life makes these lies louder. Comfort surrounds us. Distractions multiply, approval is measured in numbers, and technology tempts us with the illusion of control. It is easier than ever to believe you are powerless, or eternal, or defined by others. But it is also more urgent than ever to resist. For the man or woman who dares to face the truth in this age will stand out as a fortress in a collapsing city. What does it mean to live free of lies? It means to wake each morning with the awareness that time is short and to act with urgency. It means to accept discomfort willingly, knowing it strengthens you. It means to stand in a crowd without bending to its praise or cowering before its scorn. It means to see yourself not as finished, but as a work of discipline forever shaping. It means to sail the sea of fate calmly, steering your will, but releasing the wind. It means to say, with each moment, I will not live in illusion. I will live in truth, and in that truth, life becomes lighter. You no longer waste yourself on battles unwinnable. You no longer chase happiness where it cannot be found. You no longer postpone what matters most. You no longer beg others to confirm your worth. You no longer tell yourself you cannot change. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to master the sky. You live simply, steadily, freely. The Stoics remind us, freedom is not granted by kings, wealth, or circumstance. It is granted by truth, and truth, though heavy, liberates. Lies soothe, but they enslave. To discover the lies you tell yourself is the beginning of wisdom. To destroy them is the beginning of strength. To replace them with truth is the beginning of peace. So take this seriously. Stop whispering illusions to your own soul. Stop hiding from reality under the cloak of excuses. Look at your light with brutal honesty. Admit where you have lied to yourself, and then speak the harder truth. Train yourself daily to choose reality over comfort, discipline over indulgence, virtue over illusion. For in the end, no enemy outside can destroy you as quickly as the lies you believe inside, and no victory outside can compare to the freedom of a soul that lives in truth. This is the Stoic path. Not easy, not comfortable, but unshakable. The path where dangerous lies are silenced and only reality remains. And in that reality, you will discover what the ancients promised, that a man who refuses to lie to himself becomes unconquerable, untouchable, free. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.